The film opens on Numb walking into a boxing gym, and he is not there to train. He works as a collector for a mafia boss, and the owner of the gym has been dodging his payments for months. The owner has no intention of paying, so he sends two of his men at Numb. Numb drops both of them in seconds and backs the owner into a corner with nowhere to run. The man begs for mercy and swears he will settle everything soon, but Numb has heard that same promise too many times, so he beats him down to make the lesson stick. Then as Numb turns to leave, the owner grabs a gun. Numb fights him for it, and in the struggle, the gun goes off. The bullet hits the owner's own son, and the boy dies. Numb does not run and does not cover it up. He walks straight into a police station and turns himself in. This is the debt collector. 10 years later, Numb is still behind bars with only a few days left on his sentence, and he is not the same man who walked into that gym. All through his time inside, he has been listening to a monk who visits the prison, and the teachings have taken root in him. So the moment the gates open, Numb goes straight to the temple where that monk lives and asks him for guidance. He has no idea what to do with the rest of his life, but he knows exactly what he will not do. No more violence, and no more working for a mafia boss. The monk tells him one of his students is looking for a driver to deliver packages, and Numb takes the job without hesitating. Honest work is all he wants. A few months later, Numb has settled into the routine, spending his days behind the wheel. After a long shift, he stops at a small roadside food stall run by an elderly woman named Tati. While he eats, he notices her granddaughter, still just a child, working alongside her. It bothers him that a kid that age is carrying that kind of load, so before he leaves, he slips some money under his plate for the girl. He barely gets out the door before the child runs after him with the money, telling him he forgot it. Numb tells him he left it there on purpose, and it is his to keep. But just as Numb gets back into his vehicle, a group of thugs pulls up at Tati's stall. They have come to collect a debt. Tati does not have the full amount, and they do not take that well. They get loud and start threatening to smash her stall to pieces. Numb watches the whole thing from his vehicle, then gets out and calmly asks them to stop. Instead of fighting, he pays off part of Tati's debt himself, and the thugs back off and leave. The story then shifts to the man those thugs work for, a loan shark named Pokey, and this is where things start connecting. Pokey is the son of the same mafia boss Numb used to work for. His operation is simple and vicious. He lends money to small vendors and street sellers at interest rates designed so the debt can never actually be paid off. And when someone stops paying, he tortures them or takes everything they own. Meanwhile, Numb drives Tati and her grandchild home. She invites him inside and tells him she never wanted to borrow from those people, but she had no choice. She has been raising the girl alone since she was small because her parents abandoned her, and that money was the only way she could keep food on the table. Tati tells him the debt should have been cleared 2 years ago, but the interest keeps climbing no matter what she pays. Numb promises her that from now on he will protect her and the boy. That night, alone in his rented room, Numb's head goes light and his body seizes up. This is the part he has been keeping quiet. Numb has a brain tumor, and it is already at its final stage. He found out in prison, and the doctors always told him the same thing. The tumor cannot be removed, and he has less than 6 months left. The next day, Tati's stall is in ruins. The same thugs came back for the money, and she still does not have it. She gets down on the ground and begs them, and one of them slaps her across the face anyway. Then Numb arrives, and this time there is no conversation. He goes through all of them, and they scatter, bruised and terrified. A police officer shows up right after and asks what happened. A bystander explains that debt collectors tore the stall apart and that Tati was lucky Numb was there. The officer tells her to come down to the station and file a report. So Tati does, and Numb comes along as a witness. But while they are there, another officer asks Numb to take off his cap, and the moment he does, the officer recognizes him and says it out loud in front of everyone. He tells them Numb is part of that exact same debt collection crew, and the most brutal one in it, and that he only just got out of prison for shooting a man dead over an unpaid debt. Tati's grandchild tries to defend him, insisting that Uncle Numb is a good man, but the damage is done. Once they leave, Tati cannot look at him the same way. She is frightened of him now and convinced he is still one of them, so she thanks him politely and tells him to get back to work. Meanwhile, Pokey's men limp back to him and report that one man did all of this to them. At almost the same moment, he gets a call telling him Tati filed a police report. That is the part that really sets him off, and now he wants to make an example of her. That night, Pokey and his crew show up at Tati's house. She sees them coming and padlocks her door from the inside. Pokey demands she open it, and she refuses, because she knows what happens if she does. He asks her where she found the nerve to go to the police after he was generous enough to lend her money, and complains that now he has to pay off senior officers to make it disappear. Then he asks who beat down 4 of his men that afternoon. Tati says nothing. That silence pushes him over the edge. Pokey pours a strong chemical into the padlock so the door can never be opened, sealing Tati and her grandchild inside. Then he throws fire into the house. Tati starts begging and clawing at the lock, and Pokey responds by tying her hands so she cannot move at all. Then he walks away and leaves them there. The next day, Numb pulls up for lunch and finds the stall closed. He asks the vendor next door what happened, and that is how he learns Tati died in the fire, and her grandchild is in critical condition. Everyone knows who did it, and everyone knows why. Numb goes to the hospital, where a nurse tells him the girl has burns across her entire body. The wounds are already infected, and he most likely will not survive. Numb says nothing. He goes straight to the temple and apologizes to the monk, telling him his redemption will have to wait. He cannot stand by while these people crush the most defenseless people in the country when the law does nothing to stop them. He asks permission one last time because he is going after all of them. The monk knows he cannot change his mind, so he simply asks Numb to be careful. The reckoning starts at a coffee shop where a group of Pokey's men are sitting around. Numb walks in and goes through every one of them, leaving one man conscious on purpose because he needs Pokey's location. The man refuses to talk until Numb drips metal glue into his eye, and then he gives up the address immediately. It is a nightclub, and Pokey is inside. But before Numb can reach him, he runs into Pokey's strongest man, a former Special Forces soldier named Michael, who already knows exactly who Numb is and moves to block him. Pokey has more confidence than sense and starts taunting Numb, so Numb shoots at him. Michael shields him and Pokey escapes, which leaves Numb facing Michael and the entire crew at once. Numb knows the numbers are against him, so he pulls back and runs, setting the club on fire behind him. A police officer named Andre happens to be nearby and chases him down. Andre corners him, but then he sees a tattoo on Numb's arm, and something about it completely breaks his focus. Numb takes the opening, throws him into the river, and runs. He does not get far, though, because Michael catches him. Andre, soaking wet, cannot stop thinking about that tattoo because he has seen it before. It is the same one his best friend had years ago, and that is when it hits him. Numb is that friend. The two of them grew up together in an orphanage, both without parents, and even as a small boy, Numb was fearless and always stood up for whoever was being pushed around. One day, the two of them beat up a group of bullies and were punished by the man who ran the orphanage, who kept beating them long past the point of any lesson. Numb finally snapped and knocked the man to the ground. For that, Numb was thrown out onto the streets, while Andre stayed and eventually joined the police force. Numb wakes up inside the mafia headquarters, and this is where the boss finally appears. She is a woman everyone calls Madam, and she is Pokey's mother. She wants to know why he is causing all this chaos and why he never came back to her after prison. Numb tells her he promised to protect an old woman and her grandchild, and her son burned them alive without a second thought. Madam apologizes, promises she will deal with Pokey herself, and asks Numb to drop the revenge. Then she brings out the motorcycle he used to love back when he worked for her, hoping it pulls him back in. Numb takes the bike, turns her down flat, and rides away. Once he is gone, Madam tears into Pokey for picking a fight with the wrong man. She tells him plainly that Numb was the best man she ever had, and nobody has ever matched him. Pokey insists he had no idea. Madam tells him to leave the country before Numb finishes them all, and Pokey decides on Thailand. Out on the road, Andre spots Numb at a red light and chases him. Numb eventually loses him in the forest, but Andre keeps going on foot, shouting into the trees that he is Andre from the orphanage, his childhood friend. That finally brings Numb out of hiding, but before the moment can land, his head goes light again and the tumor drops him. When he comes to, he is standing in front of Madam. Andre sold him out for a large payment, except the payment never comes, and Andre gets tied up right beside him because Madam never intended to pay and now plans to get rid of both of them. Pokey is there too, thoroughly enjoying the sight. Michael takes them to the water's edge and throws them in, bound and helpless. But Andre works his teeth into the rope, gets himself loose, and dives back down for Numb. When Numb wakes up, Andre apologizes for selling him out and tells him he was desperate, that he needed the money for his child's operation. Before the conversation goes anywhere, Numb passes out again, so Andre takes him home. Later that night, Numb wakes up and slips out of Andre's house, taking Andre's gun with him, because he is going to finish what he started. Andre only realizes it after Num is long gone. But Num does not go hunting first. He goes back to the temple because he wants to pray before he continues down this road. A local spots him there and tips off Pokey, who brings his men straight to the temple. Pokey grabs the monk and holds him hostage, which leaves Num unable to fight back at all. Then with no hesitation, Pokey kills the monk. Just as they move on Num, Andre bursts in firing, gets Num out alive, and the two of them run for the night market. Pokey's men are right behind them, and the chase turns into a running brawl through the stalls. Num ducks into a trash bin to lose them, then breaks for a motorcycle and roars out. Elsewhere in the chaos, Andre gets the drop on Michael, but Michael wrestles the gun away and turns it into a straight fight. Andre is completely outmatched and losing badly until Num comes back for him, and together they finish Michael. Then they split up. Num is going to see this through, and Andre needs to get home to his wife and child. Num reaches Madam's compound and cuts through the guards on the ground floor, then catches Madam trying to slip out the back. He demands to know where Pokey is, and she swears she has no idea, so he tells her to hand over Pokey's number instead. On the phone, Pokey refuses to talk until Num threatens to kill his mother. That does it. Pokey tells him he is at an abandoned building and dares him to come. Num never actually intended to kill Madam, but she tries to stab him in the back on his way out, and that decision gets made for him. Then he heads to the building to end all of this. He walks into dozens of Pokey's men and has to fight through all of them. One against that many is too much even for him, and he starts to go under until Andre shows up again. From high up in the building, Pokey opens fire on both of them, and Andre takes a bad hit to the leg. Num tells him to stay down, because he will handle Pokey alone. The moment Pokey runs out of ammunition, Num is inside and climbing, going through more men waiting on the upper floors. Then he enters a room and finds a young girl and her father, two homeless people living in the building. He asks if they have seen Pokey, and neither of them will answer, but the fear on the girl's face tells him Pokey is close. Sure enough, Pokey is hiding behind a pile of scrap. He starts whimpering and begging for his life, and it works because Num's guard drops just enough. Pokey attacks and stabs him several times. Num is still strong enough to get back up, but by then, Pokey has the girl by the throat. He makes Num throw down his weapon, then beats him savagely. Just as Pokey moves to finish him, the girl's father hurls a pile of rotten vegetables at him and breaks his attention for a second. That second is all Num needs. He is on him immediately and brings him down for good, but it costs him everything. His wounds are far too deep. There in front of the girl, Num takes his last breath, and there is relief in it, because everything he came to settle has been settled. In the aftermath, Andre is promoted for his part in taking down Madam's organization, since no officer before him ever had the courage to go near these people. A few days later, he and his wife take their child to the doctor for the surgery they were so desperate to pay for, but the doctor tells them the boy has recovered on his own. The blockage in his brain is simply gone, and there is nothing left to operate on. The next day, Andre scatters Num's ashes out at sea. Standing with him is Toddy's granddaughter, the girl who nearly burned to death in that house. She survived after all, and now she has a home with Andre and his family. And there the film ends. So the moral of the story is, never upset a delivery driver. Your package might be an express delivery of consequences.